Hi everybody, my name is Gabriel Guerrero and this is the third video about a library I created called ngrx-traits. In this time we're going to be talking about something I call local traits. So local trait is a way that you can transform any traits configuration that you have that normally work globally like any normal ngrx code to work like in a local store. I mean similar to what component store does. So we're going to continue with the previous example so you can understand this better. In the last video we built this list that you can search, you can paginate, you can select stuff, you can sort it. But let's say that your product owner now asks you that this list should be in multiple tabs. i.e. the user is going to be able to create several instances of them and they're going to be able to search independently on each list. I'm gonna do a small change so you can see that done. We're gonna go to the app component and this is the way we had my list. I was simply putting it inside a tab, but now I'm gonna comment this code and I'm gonna comment this code here. You see here we have multiple tabs and the list is repeated in multiple tabs and you can create new tabs. But of course the lists have a problem because we're using the same component that is used in the global store. When I search here, if I go to another list, you see that the search is still the same, and if I select something here and I come to the other one, you see the selection is kept in all of them. So this is because it's using the global store. Okay. So that has benefit in many cases, but in this kind of case, when you need to create multiple instances of your component, is not very good. So we're gonna change that to use local traits. Let's go back to our code, and first thing we're gonna do, we need to create a new file that we're gonna call. I'm gonna create this file that should be next to the component where you're gonna do it, when you're gonna be using it. So in this case, I'm gonna call it products local trait. And now we're gonna go back to our trait file. Like I said, I'm gonna transform everything that we have to be local trait. So the first thing you need to do is we need to copy the entity feature factory. Ideally, you would be deleting the old code if you were really doing this move, or you were starting from zero, you didn't have the old code. Now that we have the entity feature factory, we need to create a class that is going to be our service that we're going to inject in our component. I'm going to call it products local trait. That's a good name. And it's very important, it needs to extend this traits local store class. And here you need to use type of the entity feature factory that you just pasted. And now you just need to implement the missing methods. First parameter here is the trait factory, which is again the entity feature factory that we just copied. And the second parameter is the component name. It should be a name similar to the component that you're adding this to. So in this case, I'm going to call it product list. You can understand this better when you see the code actually working. And now that we have this, you're going to notice here that when you do this dot, when you in a method, when you do this local actions, you're gonna see it has all the actions that we have in the global case, and the same thing for the selectors. You can see all our selectors here. Now we need to, so that's great. Now we need to do the effects. So if we go to our effects file, very similarly, I need to copy the content of this class. I'm gonna paste it here. Now this is complaining, and the first reason it's complaining is because you need to call the super, because this is this class, our local traits class, is extended traits local store, and this class already defines actions and stores, so you don't need these two. And one more thing that you need to do, if your local trait needs to have effects inside, you need to do this, which is you do this dot traits dot add effects, and you say this. This is very important. If you don't add this line in the constructor, it will not register the effects. Okay. And one last thing that you need to do, we need to get rid of all the global actions that we're using. So first thing we do here, we find all the instances of these actions, and we're going to change it to be this dot local actions, and we're going to do the same thing with the selectors. And that's it, our service ready. Now we just need to go to our container, and we're gonna do something similar. We need to add in the provider the product trait. So when we add it here, you know that this service is gonna be created and destroyed with the component, and that's very important, because when it's created, it's gonna be creating all the reducers and effects, etc. And when it's destroyed, it's gonna destroy them. We need to inject our service here. I normally call it traits. And now we need to get rid again of the global actions that we had before. We call it traits, so this is called local selectors. And the actions. And this is ready. I will explain you in a little bit how is it all working, but yep, it's all ready. So now when we go here, if you see that I select something here, it's not selected here. And if I search, for example, Zelda, you can see that the selected was kept in the previous one, and this one still has this Zelda, so the states have become independent. So how is this happening? You might wonder, is this using component store inside? It's not. I did try to implement this with component store, but the problem that I had is the APIs are quite different to ngrx, so it was really hard. I will have to remake pretty much the library. So what I did is that when component store was being created, one guy that is I think one of the interesting this guy called Tim Deskriev, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, wrote an article that is called this one, experimented with global ngrx store as a local store. And I read this article, and the way that they implement this is really easy to use with the trait. So that's what I did. This is how the traits implement local store. So it's really normal ngrx code. It has nothing to do with component store. But having said that, you can mix them. You could use a service that has a local traits and mix it with a component store if you wanted to, or mix it with a global store if you so wish. So it is very flexible. One important thing that you notice here is, remember that we added to the, let's go to the local trait file, we added this property, product list, okay? And if we go back to the old file, the product traits, you're gonna see here that we have the action groups key and the feature selector, which we don't use in the local trait. This is being called internally by the base class that we extended to create every time that a component is created, and it's using this name that you put here as prefix for that. So when we go here, you see that when I select something, you see, for example, this is firing actions, and you see they are prefixed with the product list too. So when the component is created, it gives them an ID and it uses that name as a prefix, and it will also use that to create the feature selector. So you see, if you see the state here, you see that we have a state for each of the components, and that's why they all work independently. They simply have independent state. So one great thing about this is that you can use the normal Redux tools to debug each of these components, and if you go inside, you can see that each one has its states independent. And if you go and delete one, for example, you're gonna see here they are gone. So it destroys them, it completely destroys the state. And if you want to add more, you see that they are created. So the states are independent. It's no more ngrx code. So, and it worked great. So it's a very easy way to, and I don't know if you noticed how complex will be implementing all this logic in component store. And the good thing is that this will also work if you create custom traits. So it is very powerful. So that's it for this video. I will be doing one more video about how to create your own traits. Be sure to check that one out, and that's it for today. I hope you enjoy it and have a really nice day.